At 11:03 a.m. on September 19, 1944, Staff Sergeant Frank Thompson sat quietly inside the turret of his M4 Sherman tank near Araort, France, aware that the next few hours might very well be his last. He was only 24 years old, but the war had aged him fast. 4 months in combat had already seen him through 12 tank battles. Each had taken a toll. None more so than the brutal realization that every gunner he served with had one fatal disadvantage: they never saw the enemy first. The German Panthers, with their superior optics and longer guns, always fired first, and that split-second edge meant death. The Sherman sight gave its gunner a narrow 30-degree field of view. By the time the tank commander spotted a German tank and the gunner swung the turret, the enemy had usually already taken aim. It wasn't strategy that was failing them, it was visibility. Thompson, the loader, knew it intimately. He'd lived with it since June, loading the 75-millimeter cannon for Sergeant William Crawford. He'd watched too many comrades burn alive in their steel coffins because they simply couldn't see fast enough. The first loader he lost was Corporal David Kozlowski, a Chicago steelworker who had trained with Thompson at Fort Knox. On September 7th, Kozlowski's Sherman was hit from 1,300 yards by a Panther hidden in the tree line. The shell penetrated the turret. The propellant ignited. Kozlowski died instantly. His body remained in the flaming wreck for hours. The second was even worse. Corporal James Martinez was more than a comrade. He was Thompson's best friend. They had stormed Normandy together, dreamed of opening a garage when it was all over. On September 16th, Martinez's tank faced off against 3 Panthers near Bison-Lait. They managed to destroy one, but the second flanked them and struck from 900 yards. The round struck just as Martinez was loading a shell. He died instantly. A fellow tank commander later told Thompson through tears that had they spotted the Panther 3 seconds earlier, Martinez would still be alive. By mid-September, Thompson had watched 11 loaders die. Every death followed the same pattern. The German tanks spotted them first, took their time aiming, and fired with deadly accuracy. American bravery wasn't enough. Bravery couldn't make up for poor optics. But Thompson began to see a way forward. He had watched and studied these engagements, analyzing what always went wrong. It was never about the gun. The Sherman's 75-millimeter could destroy a Panther. The problem was always time, seeing the enemy fast enough to shoot first. The solution didn't require a new weapon or new tactics. It just needed a mirror. On September 18th, Thompson quietly removed the 3x4-inch mirror from his shaving kit, standard issue. He had an idea, illegal, risky, and potentially court-martial worthy, but Martinez was dead. So was Kozlowski, and 11 others. He wasn't ready to be the 12th. That night, long after the other crews had gone to sleep, Thompson crept into the maintenance area with a dying flashlight, wire cutters, pliers, and salvaged steel wire. The Sherman sat quietly in the line. Nobody challenged him. Night maintenance was common. He climbed into the turret and positioned the mirror to the left of Crawford's seat, mounted at a precise 45-degree angle, just enough for Crawford to see behind the tank without turning from the gun sight. The placement had to be perfect, not too high to obscure aim, not too low to interfere with movement. Thompson drilled quietly into the armor, heart pounding with every metallic squeal of the bit, certain that any moment an officer might discover him. Installing the crude brackets took 40 minutes. His hands trembled from more than the cold Lorraine night air. When he was done, he tested it. From the gunner's seat, the mirror reflected the rear view perfectly. A 3-second glance could mean the difference between life and death. He climbed out of the tank at 1:30 a.m., walked back to his bunk, and lay awake until dawn, thinking of what might come. If the mirror failed, it wouldn't matter. He'd be dead anyway. At 7:12 a.m., Thompson's Sherman rolled out toward German lines. The engine growled as they advanced east. 18 Shermans stretched across the countryside, ripe for ambush. Thompson watched Crawford in the gunner's seat. The mirror gleamed just to his left. If Crawford noticed it, he said nothing. At 8:43 a.m., the lead tank reported movement, German armor, likely Panthers, at 2,000 yards. Too far to engage. The column spread out. Thompson's crew found a position behind a low ridge. Crawford prepared. Thompson loaded an armor-piercing round and braced himself. At 9:07 a.m., Crawford fired. The tank rocked. Smoke filled the turret. Thompson reloaded. Then Crawford's voice crackled over the intercom. Calm, focused. Panther, left rear, 800 yards. Thompson's blood turned cold. A Panther had flanked them. But Crawford had seen it, without a command, without turning the turret. He had glanced at the mirror. It worked. Crawford swung the turret left. The Panther was moving through open ground, unaware it had been spotted. Crawford fired. The round hit the track, immobilized the tank. The second shot, faster than Thompson thought possible, pierced the turret. Smoke billowed. The German crew bailed. They were alive. Crawford had spotted the flanking tank 3 seconds earlier because of the mirror. Those 3 seconds saved the crew, and from that moment, everything changed. After the battle, Crawford found Thompson, stared at the mirror, and simply said, "This saved us." Then he asked Thompson to install one in every tank in the battalion. Thompson started with Crawford's wingman, Sergeant Hayes, whose loader had died weeks earlier. Hayes's new loader was just a kid, terrified. Thompson installed the mirror that night. The next day, Hayes's crew destroyed 2 Panthers. The mirror had worked again. Word spread. Within days, Thompson had installed mirrors in 14 tanks. He worked maintenance by day, drilled through steel by night, barely sleeping. But the kill ratio flipped. American tanks were now destroying 5 Panthers for every Sherman lost. Lieutenant Colonel Abrams noticed. His men were winning, reacting faster, living longer. On September 27th, Abrams conducted an inspection. He found the mirror in Thompson's tank, then another, then another. He summoned Thompson and asked if he'd installed them. Thompson, bracing for punishment, confessed. Abrams simply asked, "How many tanks don't have them yet?" 23, sir," Thompson replied. Abrams nodded. "You have 48 hours to install mirrors in every tank in this battalion. That's an order. I'll handle the paperwork." The modification was now official, at least in spirit. Thompson trained other mechanics, shared the method. By September 29th, every Sherman in the battalion had the mirror. It became standard equipment, though still technically unauthorized. The impact was undeniable. German commanders were stunned. Their usual flanking tactics failed. Shermans were reacting too fast, seeing too much. The enemy began referencing mysterious American awareness, how they seemed to have eyes in the back of their heads. They did. A mirror. Word spread to other divisions. 6th Armored, 10th, then 3rd. No orders. Just loaders, mechanics, and gunners copying what worked. Abrams wrote a report. Patton read it. He understood what a few seconds meant in armored warfare. He ordered every Sherman under 3rd Army to be fitted with the modification. By mid-October, over 300 tanks had mirrors. By January 1945, the count reached 800. But the credit didn't follow the truth. In November, the Ordnance Department sent a team to evaluate. They tested, measured, confirmed it worked. Then rewrote the story, filed patents, named engineers, erased Thompson, Crawford, and Hayes. Abrams tried to correct the record, but bureaucracy buried the truth. Thompson didn't care. The men he'd saved mattered more than recognition. He continued loading shells, surviving the Battle of the Bulge, pushing into Germany. Crawford spotted flanking tanks 8 more times thanks to that mirror. Each time they fired first. Each time they lived. After the war, Thompson returned to Pennsylvania. He worked in a steel mill, married, raised 2 daughters. He never spoke of the mirror, never claimed the credit. Hayes became a teacher. Crawford returned to Detroit. Every September 19th, he called Thompson to say thank you. In 1992, a military historian uncovered references to the mirror in maintenance logs. He found Crawford, then Thompson. The story resurfaced briefly in a military history journal. A few letters came. One from a tank commander who said the mirror saved his crew, another from a loader in 6th Armored, one from a museum. In 1996, Crawford visited Thompson. They talked for 6 hours, two old soldiers revisiting what had nearly killed them and what had saved them. Crawford had spent years trying to get Thompson recognized. But nobody listened. It had been too long, too many bigger stories. Thompson passed away in 2003. His obituary mentioned he served in the 4th Armored Division. Nothing more. But at his funeral, 3 strangers attended. Tank veterans, men who'd used the mirrors. They told his daughters what he'd done. Only then did they learn the truth. Today, the story lives on in fragments. A turret mirror on display at Fort Knox, maintenance logs in archives, a footnote in history books, no official name. But it was Thompson's mirror, his legacy, not the one etched in medals or monuments, but the one that saved lives, hundreds of them, because a desperate young loader couldn't watch any more of his friends die. That's how change happens in war, not through official channels, but through courage, through soldiers who see what's wrong and fix it, even if it breaks every rule. Thompson didn't wait for permission. He didn't need medals. He just needed 3 seconds, and because of him, hundreds of men got them. And now, so do you. You remember him, and that's enough.